Today we're going to talk about coffee. What I've done here is I've bought some nice coffee beans and I've put them in a sealed glass jar from the grocery store, whatever you happen to have around. Instead of throwing the jar in the recycling, wash it out and you can use it for coffee. The idea is to put a couple different types of coffee in different jars. Say one type in one jar and another type in another jar. And then put the jars in the freezer and seal them tightly. This way you have a lot of coffee that you can use whenever you want, different types of coffee. And if your friends come over, they can choose whatever type they'd like to have. Sort of like having a little coffee shop. And because the coffee's in the freezer, it keeps a long time and it stays fresh. So it's a good way to manage your coffee. Some people don't use up a lot of coffee all at one time, and this keeps it fresh for quite a long time. So now I take out the jars and I decide which type of coffee I want. Say one is a Colombian, one is a hazelnut, one is something else, and I can choose because I have them all available in my house. See, those are the beans, and now I'm thinking and deciding on the type of coffee that I'd like to have. So there's also a coffee grinder. So what I do is I take some of the coffee beans and I put them into the grinder. I think I've decided now on which type I'm going to have. This is kind of neat. It's to have a variety of options available so that it's not just one type of coffee but several. Kind of like a little coffee shop in your house for you and your friends. Lots of people like drinking coffee, so I put the beans in the coffee grinder and I can decide if I want the coffee to be strong or weak, depending on how much coffee I will use. And I can decide how many cups of coffee I want to make. In this case, I'm just going to make a few. So I'm grinding the coffee, and I wait a little bit between each time I press down the coffee grinder and start grinding. And apparently this stops the oils from getting damaged by heat. So you can do that, or you can just press it down and just let it grind until it's finished. You can grind the coffee coarse or grind the coffee fine, whatever you'd like. Gives you a lot of control. So by this point the coffee is almost ground, and I have a filter already in the coffee maker. The filter is very inexpensive, so you can even just make 1 or 2 cups of coffee at once. It's just fine. You can grind a little bit of coffee and just make a cup or two. That works quite well too. And I put the coffee in the coffee maker. And now I put some water in the coffee maker, however much I want. However many cups, pour it in, like that. And now I just put the coffee pot in the coffee maker and turn on the machine. It's very simple. And I'll have fresh coffee in a couple of minutes. The reason I did something on coffee is because coffee is an example of a small repeating cost that adds up. So if you make your own coffee, it can save you a fair bit of money, even if you buy a couple of beans, even expensive ones. It might cost a couple of cents for a cup of coffee, and you could pay as much as maybe $5 or $7 per cup at a store. And you can see this is a considerable saving to you you do this every day. And if you have a bunch of friends over, it doesn't cost much to make a pot of coffee. They'll like it. So now the coffee has been brewed, and I pour in a little bit of milk first, and then the coffee is poured on top, and it mixes as it's poured in. So now the coffee is ready. You can add cream or milk or sugar, whatever you want. Another technique is to froth the milk. So I put a little bit of milk into a pot, and I heat up the milk. I warm it up a little bit, and I stir it as it's warming up to stop it from burning. So the milk is being warmed up, and once it's warm, I will pour it into a cup like this, and pour it right in. And now I'm going to use a milk frother, which is one of these tools. There's probably a lot of different brands available. This one's battery powered, and you stick it in the milk, and in a couple of seconds the milk is turned to foam. And it's kind of like a latte. So now you take the coffee, and when the milk has been foamed, you pour it into the milk foam, and you get a really nice coffee. Your friends will like it. A beautiful flavor and a beautiful look. And it didn't cost much time or money to do this. Now comes time for the cleanup. So I have a cup of water with a little dish soap in it, and I put the milk frother in, turn it on, and it sort of cleans itself. And then I take a sponge, and I wipe the rest of the milk frother off with a sponge, the steel part, and then I rinse it off with water, clean water. Now I just have to clean up the coffee pot. Some people don't wash the coffee pot after every use. I like to do this. And then I rinse out the soap, and I wash the coffee pot. Then it's ready to go when I need it again in a couple of days, or maybe even tomorrow. As you can see, it doesn't take much time or effort or work to make some coffee. A lot of cups of coffee, and if I had to buy these, it would be pretty expensive. This way it didn't cost very much at all. Just a couple of beans and a couple of minutes of time.